All right, mic check, good. So I'm Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron and we are here in Atlanta, Fabtech, having a wonderful time, visiting with bros, having lots of times, going everywhere, walking around, the miles and miles of walking that we do out here. And right now I got Ian Johnson, a fellow Canuck.
Yes.
On the show.
I still have some Canuckistanian in me.
Good. And he is from Big Tire Garage. Is that Big Tire Garage Inc. or is that Big Tire Garage Corp. or is that
No, I mean
what's the title?
So Big Tire Garage isn't even really a garage. It's just a cool fort that I get to play in and build cool trucks. So we call it Big Tire Garage, but Big Tire Garage is like sort of the parent company that takes care of all of our productions for Motor Trend, Amazon, everybody else. Because we do not only do my shows in the studios now, we got a couple other projects that we build for Motor Trend. So it's kind of just, we call it the Big Tire Garage, but if we want to get all official and everything, it's actually Digital Lug Studios. But I
Digital
mean,
Lug Studios.
That's less fun than saying Big Tire Garage. So.
I don't know. I kind of enjoy Digital Lug Studios.
Yeah, it's a cool.
You picked it for a reason.
Yeah, it was a cool. It has a lot of L's in it, so I liked it. It was kind of fun.
fan of the L's.
The funny story is the reason it's called Digital Lug is my wife and I, because you're trying to name a new company, and we started it 4 years ago. And we were digging around trying to find cool names. You're looking for all these names and
that aren't taken, right?
Exactly, everything's taken. And Digital Lug. Lug is Gaelic for ear, and so we're like, yeah, that's kind of fun.
Okay,
that's what you do when you name a company now, or you want to do anything. You just spend like hours online, like, what does this mean? And I had a really cool name. I was like, I want to call it Freebooter Media because it's like you spend all this time like looking at like cool pirate names, cool Viking names, cool this, and so Freebooter, we're like, that's kind of cool because that's like a pirate, that's like an independent pirate. That's what
like a contractor.
It's like a freebooter was, and I was like, that's kind of cool. But then you have to go to Urban Dictionary to double check that name. Well, that name is actually, it's a bad name on the internet. So if you're a freebooter in my industry, in the media industry, that means that you're stealing people's content and putting it on you. And I was like, we can't call it.
That's not your game.
Freebooter Media. No. So that name kind of just died quickly. So then we went back to Digital Lug.
That's so weird because like I've named a couple companies now, and I never thought about Viking or pirate. Maybe it's my background's different. I don't know. Like
you go through
that wasn't my first idea.
We went through everything. We go through you go through Viking, Roman, pirates. Just cool names.
They're probably all taken though.
Oh, they are. All the cool stuff is taken. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you didn't just want to be like IJ Inc.
No, that's such a Canadian thing to do, to name your company like C&H Plumbing. It's always like, who's C&H? Corey and Hansen. Yeah, it's always, every Canadian company in the world is named after like the father and son or the three brothers or the whatever. Yeah, so no, we didn't do that. We wanted something different.
So let's talk about who you are, right? So you are Ian Johnson. You build cars, mainly off-road 4x4 vehicles. And you're here at Fabtech. So what's your connection to Fabtech? 'Cause I met you at Fabtech. I had seen you online, but you were just like this personality. But then when I met you at Fabtech, it was like, is there a Canadian here? There's a Canadian here. And it was like, dun, 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 right?
Yeah, we find each other. We can smell the maple syrup.
Yeah, it's like, someone smells like back bacon. And it's like, hey, that's me, right? So now, what do you do at Fabtech? What's your reason to attend and be at Fabtech?
Every year is different. So normally when I'm at Fabtech, I'm working with the ESOB welding and cutting guys. So we normally do all their welding demos inside their booth. This year, they're not at Fabtech. They're going to do every other year. So they're going to just do Chicago Fabtech from now on. They're doing a virtual product launch next week called Spark Week, which is kind of a fun name. It's like Shark Week, but for welders, which is kind of cool. So we just got done filming all that kind of stuff for them. So this year, the guys at Flexure Table, which is a fab table company and welding cart table, they put a table in the shop in the studio last year, and he called me up and he's like, we just want something cool in the studio or at our booth at Fabtech. And I said, well, I can bring you a rock crawler. and we were going to bring down a full-blown rock crawler, but it was too big. So Sunday when I got back from SEMA, we went down to the shop. We ripped the axles out of a crawler, threw it on a flatbed, drove it down here on Monday morning, and they threw it in the booth Monday morning. So it's literally just the chassis. It's just chassis, engine, transmission.
So you're here
case.
just to make sure you get your vehicle back.
Yeah, I gotta pick that up and haul it back home, and then I'm gonna be in their booth this afternoon. They're doing a giveaway. I brought a bunch of stickers with me. We're gonna do like some sort of like a meet and greet in the booth kind of thing. So I'll be
fun,
doing that this
fun.
afternoon. Yeah.
Now, how has your company been doing? How is, the big tire garage, the digital lugs, is growth good? You've been crazy? What's going on, man?
Yeah, we've gone a little cuckoo crazy. It was good for us. I mean, the reality is everyone still wants to see stuff on, we still call it TV, even though it's not TV. We do, most of our stuff's done for both digital streaming and or YouTube or whatever you want to call it. So some of the stuff's on our own channels. So we have our own distribution channels through all of our individual show YouTubes, and then we've got stuff going through our own app, the Digital Lug app. But then we also have, just production for hire for Motor Trend, which is probably the bulk of our business right now. But we're wide open. It doesn't stop. There's still tons of people who want to see people build cool stuff, and that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, and that'll never stop. That's just like human instinct, right?
Yeah, it's tricky because, a wise man once said to me, it's called show business, not show charity. So the easy part is making the TV show. The hard part is making money while you make a TV show. I've been fortunate. I've worked with some pretty good guys in my life. The guys who used to own the production company I used to work for, he retired years ago, Joe St. Lawrence. And then David Hall now works with us with some of our other entities that we worked with, Motor Trend. And those are two guys who've been in the game long enough to understand that, at the end of the day, if a TV show doesn't make money, that's why a TV show's not on TV anymore. Everyone always wonders, like, why did that show get canceled? It's pretty simple. It's because it didn't make any more money. That's what it boils down to at the end of the day.
100%. And like I heard guys talking last night, we went to Arcs Nails and talking to all the different people, and there's, over the years, all these Arcs Nails and conference get-togethers, the parties, it was always like CEOs and SLT and marketing managers and blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that. But now it's a lot of like social media influencers and people off of the internet. And they are a big part of the industry now. And listening to them talk about the difficulties of the saturated market now was really eye-opening for me. So, for example, one of the guys was talking about the 1 million views. Like, if you can get 1 million views within a week, this is like a thing. Like, it's a pretty big step as an influencer to hit that. And they were like, 4 years ago, 1 million views in a week, it would be like a $30,000-$40,000 hit back, like in terms of what you make. Now it's like maybe $2,000 to $3,000. So like that's not you're not eating much on that for very long. That's 1 month's rent and a trip to the grocery store, and that's to build content. One of the other people that was there was like, well, it's only 20 minutes of work and whatever. It's like, yeah, but it's not like that. It's not like it's just like that. So how does the changing markets affect how you approach this stuff?
Probably the biggest thing you have to understand is that the number of eyeballs hasn't changed. So, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, let's go 15 years ago. 15 years ago, you made a TV show and you'd easily pick up 5 million views in a weekend, and that was normal. And your commercial spots, your 30-second spots inside that show, I mean, they'd sell out for like $100,000 a pop because it was worth it. It was $100,000, reach 5 million people.
It's a good deal at that point.
Yeah. So nowadays, we make a TV show. If we reach 250,000 people, we run around and high five each other because it's a good hit. And so because of that, you're obviously your revenue is way lower.
Back,
Instead of $100,000, it's $10,000. That's just the reality of it. But what you have to do is you have to find other places because the people are still out there. So the reality is, instead of people just watching TV on Saturday morning, now what you have to do is you have to basically capitalize on all the different areas. So you have to be on Instagram, you have to be on YouTube, you have to be on Facebook, you have to be on any streaming app that'll take you. That's basically what it boils down to. You'll still get to that 5 million people. There's just more places. There's more places and harder places to get to it. I think the hardest thing that influencers are trying to deal with right now is, and it's just the reality of the situation, whenever something new, YouTube was probably the one that did it the most. Years ago, YouTube, it was easy to make, $60,000 a month. You'd see these guys, some of the big names out there, they're making when the whole automotive and everything kicked off on YouTube hard, it really wasn't
like
that
post Pimp My Ride.
Yeah, it really wasn't hard to hear people making $50,000 on YouTube. But you got to remember, YouTube's still a business at the end of the day. Their job is to make money too. So the minute that they realized, oh, wait a minute, we can pay these guys, instead of paying them 50, we'll pay them $5. They'll still make the videos because they will.
And they're committed to their followers now.
Exactly.
Right?
Now they have to do it. So that's the hard part. The hard part for the influencer, honestly, is getting to that point. What happens is with most people who play that game, they're like, I'm going to make this my full-time job. I'm just going to do either how-to videos on YouTube or social media stuff. Is you have to do it all. You have to sell merch, you have to sell t-shirts, have to sell hats, have to sell stickers, and then you have to be the person that puts that stuff in a bag and mails it out because you're not making enough money to pay someone to do it for you. And then you have to make the videos, live off the amount of content, like you said, $2,000-$3,000 a month, which is not a lot of money if you're running a business. So it's tricky. It really is. And then the other thing that's hard is you're at the whim of YouTube, because YouTube one day could just say, you know what, now we're not paying you $3,000, we're paying you $300. And they're not going to call you and tell you. You're just going to go on there one day and look at it and be like, where'd all my money go?
Yeah, what happened?
And there's nothing you can do about that. So it's hard. It really is. It's a hustle. Anyone who tries to do it, at the end of the day, it's still a grind. You have to almost look at it as like your secondary job. It's hard to make sort of like YouTube a full-time job.
It can't be your full-time hustle.
It's not going to work because you have no control over it at the end of the day.
So that's a tough business model to work around, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, we kind of live in that no matter what, but there's usually some form of bite back. So like if loaves of bread go up to $30 a loaf, I mean, there's really not much we can do about that immediately, but no one's buying that $30 loaf, and then that company loses money. So within a few months, it'll level back out just because it's got to sell. But with a digital product, I don't know if there's that type of kickback. Like, are people going to stop going to YouTube?
No, because the thing that people always forget is YouTube is the second largest search engine that happens to be owned by the first largest search engine. You know, that's so you're kind of at their whim, and there's really nothing you can do about it. The best thing you can do is the same thing as everything else: is you got to diversify everything you're doing. Digital content is I always tell people nowadays, digital content is like real estate was in the 80s. If you're 100% committed to just another person's delivery model, then you're basically renting your space. So when you're in the 80s, when you started a business, the biggest advice people gave you was, buy the land, buy the building. The best thing you can do is buy the building that you're working out of, because then at one day you'll have that as an asset. The reality is that digital content is an asset. You own it. If you're 100% taking that digital content and only sending it out to you're only using it on YouTube, that's a foolish decision. You have to look at that digital asset and say, okay, where else can I send this stuff? Can I chop it up and put it out on Instagram? Instagram actually is paying very well lately if you chop your stuff up and stick it out as a reel. You know, they're offering bonuses up to like $8,500 a month if you get a lot of traction. So if you have a video that's on YouTube, the best thing you can do is chop that thing up and get it out on Instagram, stick it out as a reel, as a bunch of stories. That's the hard part. Is everyone's
a lot more work now, though, right?
It is. It's just but that's just diversification 101. You know, you put it on Instagram, you get that monetized, you put it on Facebook, I've watched Justin Fabricator. I've seen him post many times lately that he's stopped putting stuff on YouTube. He's starting just putting it on Facebook, because you have to work the algorithm. You got to understand it. If YouTube's not paying, then don't put the videos there. Put it somewhere else.
Take your business somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's because YouTube is living on the fact that you really, if you've invested heavily on YouTube, 9 times out of 10, that's where all your content goes. And that's a mistake. You need to put it everywhere. Everywhere that'll take it, you should put it.
Yeah. What about having yourself release it, like server? Like, I'm old, so you can be like, I can own this space. I can own the computer. I can host this myself. Is that even a thing anymore?
Yeah, you can do it. There's lots of ways to do it. The good news is it's actually getting cheaper. So, we had an app built out last year just to see what it would be like. It was fairly expensive, but nowadays it's even cheaper. You can go onto Squarespace right now and create up your own digital firewall page, which you can do. The thing that we're seeing in our industry right now is there's a lot of what we call app fatigue. There's people who are like, oh my God. Like, here's a perfect example. One of my cameraman was like, we were filming the other day and we were talking about watching a TV show. And he's like, well, where do you watch that? And I said, well, it's on this app. And he's like, oh my God, another app. He says, you know what? I'm so sick and tired of this. I just want to go home, sit on the couch, turn on my TV and have like 300 channels that I can choose from. And I'm like, dude, you had that. It was called cable and you complained about it all the time. You said, if I could just watch one channel, I'd pay $20 a month for that one channel. Well, guess what? Now you pay $20 a month for that one channel. You're paying $20 a month for for this. You're paying $20 a month. You're paying $20 a month for Netflix, $20 a month for Discovery, $20 a month for Motor Trend, Hulu, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Disney, all the pluses. Everyone's plus. I have no idea why. Anyways, you have all these channels that you're not, but you're still paying the same amount of money.
It makes the overweight people feel better.
That's right. Yeah. So that could be it. Could be it. My favorite is there's a new acronym in our industry, and I love it because they got all excited about it, and they announced it about a year ago, and they came in, they're like, we got this new, we're going to launch fast TV. It's called Fast TV. Fast. It's a fast app. And I'm like, what is it? What's a fast app? And they're like, it's free ad-supported television. And I said, well, isn't that just like what television was?
Isn't that normal TV?
That's TV. They're like, oh, yeah, no, it's new. It's new. It's fast. Fast.
So let's take this back, because like, I mean, the knowledge you're spitting out is awesome, and it's good for people to know. But where did it come from? Like, so you're where were you born? Like, where's your roots? And let's start from that point.
So I started completely outside of the media industry. I had no idea. And the reality was, the funny part was, I used to give talks at high schools back in Tennessee, and I'd say to people, you know, when I was in high school, I hated English. And then one day I owned a magazine, and if I had known, like if I had my English teacher had told me, you should really study English because one day you could own a car magazine, I would have paid more attention in English class. But I didn't. Luckily, my wife did. She used to edit all my articles because they were terrible without her editing them for me. But anyway, so, you know, my background it's legit trade background. So I was born in Smiths Falls, actually born in Perth, Ontario, from Smiths Falls, Ontario, Canada, where I grew up, and then finished high school, did my apprenticeship for automotive technician. Back then it was automotive mechanic. Now they churched it up by calling it automotive technician. So now I'm a heavy trucking coach and car automotive technician is what my ticket is. And then I wanted my summers off, so I became a high school shop teacher. Went to Queen's University, got my teaching degree, and then taught, and then applied for a job on the internet to be on Monster Garage. I went and did an episode of Monster Garage, and came home, and I thought it was kind of fun.
But why?
Because it was just, I loved the show. That was cool. You know, that was good. And then there was at the end of the show, it was like, apply to be on the show, and I was like, dude, this is cool. I want to be on that show. So I went. Did that show. It was fun. I really enjoyed TV. And then another ad came on, and it was for the Power Block at the time. It was like, be the next big wrench. And so I just filled out the application again. And because I'd been on TV, I got shortlisted right away. And they flew 200 of us into Nashville to film with Spike TV, and all the Spike executives were there. And then I just started work. I thought I'd do that for a couple of years, then go back and teach high school. And then so I got the job, and we launched Extreme 4x4. We created and launched Extreme 4x4 at the time. The good thing was, probably the best thing that ever happened was the guy that owned that company, his name was Joe St. Lawrence, and he was like the most open company owner you've ever met. So you could go in his office, sit down, and be like, Joe, how do you make money? How do we do? And he would share it all.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, he would say, well, this is what we do now. This is what we did 5 years ago. And he was just that guy that you could sit down and have. He'd sit there and drink a glass of wine. I'd sit there and have a glass of whiskey, and we'd sit there and we'd talk for like hours. And he was always super open about everything that the company ever did. And so I was very fortunate. I got to learn at the feet of the guy. Like, Joe St. Lawrence is the man who invented how-to television. Like, how-to automotive television did not exist until Joe St. Lawrence created it with Hot Rod TV. He was one of the first ones ever did it. Started on the Home Shopping Network.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so that was his deal. And so he basically created that industry. And so he was always open to share that info. And him and I he's now retired. Believe it or not, now he helps his son run a CBD company out of Tennessee. And so him and I still get together, and we'll talk about stuff all the time. And I was fortunate to learn a lot from him. And then, so then when I left that company and started my own production company, he was one of the first guys I called, and we just said, this is what we're going to do. And it just took off from there.
And did you have any media training whatsoever? Did you
Nope.
take any type of media training even after the fact?
No, the only thing I did was when I left and started my own production company, Joe told me, him and I had lunch, him and his wife owned the company, and we all sat down and had lunch. And he said, the best advice I can give you is learn to do every job. So learn how to be a cameraman, learn how to edit, do the edit, do everything you can. And the good thing nowadays you can learn all that stuff online. You can go to YouTube
and there's
search.
free versions of things that used to cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd spent like 6 months basically learning how to use Premiere Pro and all that kind of stuff. Now, I was fortunate in one way when I taught high school, I actually taught a class, and I did get my teaching certificate in teaching communications technology, which was basically video editing and stuff. So I had a very light introduction to video editing, and I thought it was cool. And I always
Enough
liked
not to be scared of it, right?
Yeah, and it's all just moving pictures and putting them together, right?
Yeah.
So when I started the company, I was like, yep. So I went out and bought all the gear, and then we started filming. I did all the editing for the first series that we ever did, and that just sort of helped me understand. The biggest reason he said do that is not, and it's true, is not so I could do it. It was to understand that when someone comes in and goes, yeah, I'll do that job, it's $500 an hour. You can look at it and you can understand, yeah, that's worth $500 an hour because I know how hard that job is.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, no, I'm not paying you $500 an hour. That's not worth $500 an hour. That's an easy job.
What the job is.
Yeah, and so we did that. And so now we have a good group of guys, a good crew of about probably a total of about 5-6 guys. They're all freelance. They just sort of work when we need them to work. And they're all really good at their job. We're able to put a good team together who can do what they need to do. And it just sort of works out really well for us.
And then when you got into this enterprise of like, I'm going to start building stuff, did you already have a love of the off-road vehicle before this? When, as a mechanic, as a mechanic going to school, was that where you saw yourself going in that direction, or did it just kind of veer there and you loved it?
I started like building pro street cars in high school. So we had like super cool pro street cars. And I had a '79 Chevy that was also my first car was a Volkswagen Bug, and we had it, and it was a great car, and I loved it, and I still have it. And it was a Cal Custom Bug, but I started working in a shop that was Pro Street, helping out this guy Tim McCubry was his name, Street Tech Engine Supply in Smiths Falls, and that was all the Pro Street guys hung out there, and we all knew each other. It's a small town. But the Pro Street cars were cool, but back then they were just show cars, right? Just go park on the grass. And then my buddy Brent Algie had a Jeep, and he was like, Jeeps are cool. And we got into Jeeping, and I was like, Jeeps are stupid. And then I started hanging out with him. We started building Jeeps. I was like, dude, Jeeps are super cool. And so we had fun with the Jeeps. And then we just sort of went to, and then after that, I mean, you know what it's like in Canada. I mean, you got about every your other car is a 4-wheel drive car.
100%.
Because you have to get to work on Monday, you know. And so then when I went to trade school to become a mechanic, you know, I specialized in drivetrains, so transmissions, transfer cases, rear axles. And then I just kind of grew up from there. And then when we got the job offer to go launch Extreme 4x4, which is a good fit because I'd spent so much time working on 4-wheel drive stuff. I love the off-road scene. It's probably my favorite because the cool thing about the off-road trucks is you can show up with a $5,000 off-road truck, or you can show up with a $50,000 off-road truck, and you can have just as much fun in either one.
And everyone's equally cool, which is, I think, the car scene in general. If you're in a good, healthy car scene, I love cars. I've been around cars my whole life and did it for a career for a little while, but what I always appreciated about the car enthusiast scene is when it's respectful and engaging, because you have the Ferrari show up and then you have like the kid with the 78 Camaro show up, and both guys are equally as excited to see each other's cars.
Yeah.
Right? The guy who has a Ferrari is like, oh, a 78 Camaro, I remember those was so cool. It's got T-tops. Like, let's do burnout, right? And then the kid with the Ferrari is like, wow, can I sit in that car, right? Like,
yeah, we just got done building. We shot a show for Motor Trend called, we're still shooting it, but we did one, finished the series. Now we're getting ready to ramp up for next year. So we did CarCraft TV out of our studios, and we did my son has a 2007 BMW wagon. And so we brought it in, and we did a full LS swap and a Tremec 6-speed manual conversion on it, an air ride. And then they wanted it at SEMA this year, so it went to SEMA this year, which is, you know, like, God, 10 years ago, a BMW would not be seen at SEMA.
No.
But it was like, no, but now they're all over the place. And all the BMW guys hook up with each other, and they think it's all cool, and they're always talking about stuff. So
they'll drive around without signaling.
Yeah, that's just the way it is, man. But yeah, it's the cool thing about the car scene is how it's evolved. Like you said, it's just different. It used to be, if it wasn't a muscle car, it wasn't cool.
That's right.
Now it's like, it's super inclusive, which I like a lot. There's a little bit of everything. Like you go to SEMA nowadays. I took my Jeep YJ there this year with eBay Motors as part of their tour, and then took the BMW, and everyone loves all of them, which is cool.
I remember we were building classic cars, but I'm in Regina, Saskatchewan, right? So like, there's already the shops in town that have been there 50 years by the old guys with the beards that build the hot rods. And so that wasn't a market I could really get into without having to like really ruffle some feathers. So I started getting in more into the JDM import market and just picking up what was out there, right? And there's a huge car show in Regina called Majestics. It's the biggest car show of the year. And I was like, okay, it's time. The company's been around. Let's put in some cars. You know, the first year we just put it in one small car, and it didn't hit. It was like a Toyota Camry we did a turbo with a nitrous, 50 shot of nitrous on it, just stupid things, just to see what would happen. And it didn't hit well. And the next year, the company had grown, and we're like, let's get like a big 40 by 40 booth, and we'll put 4 cars in, you know, and we'll put a nice big display in the whole thing. And we put all imports in. And I actually won Best in Show with a 92 Integra on air ride with a roll cage and a B18 swap. And though, you know, and at that time, a PlayStation in the dash, which was a big deal back then,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
the inverted 12-inch Type R Alpine in the back, you know, and it was the first time an import had ever won Best in Show, you know, at this show. And I was so amazed at how many kids were in. So all the dads always take their kids to car shows, right? It's like it's a thing that's really fun to do. And all the dads are like checking out all the old cars, but all the kids were surrounding all these imports. They were just like, wow, that's so cool, because this is really only like a $5,000 car that I just spent 4 months on.
Yep.
Really, there's, you know, body-wise, frame-wise, it wasn't rocket science to get in there. It was just like, well, how much stupid things can we do to this little, you know, 1,600-pound car, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why we did the BMW on the CarCraft show, because CarCraft was never really, it was definitely not an import magazine. It was always like it was an engine swap kind of junkyard stuff magazine. And when we relaunched that show for them, we were like just tossed around ideas. And I said, you got to do a BMW LS swap. You have to, because number one, if you LS swap anything else, everyone's just be like, oh, boring, another LS, because LS is going everything. And there's
How's about a Chevette?
Yeah, LS has been in everything. And so what we did, but the reality, that BMW, like a BMW 3 Series BMW, it's a $5,000 car. And that's what kids, like when we were growing up, you could buy a 68 Camaro for $5,000, but you can't do that now.
I had 2 69 Chevelles. I don't think I paid $3,000 for either of them.
Yeah, I remember I bought a 71 split bumper Camaro when I was 18. It was literally, I paid $800 for it. And it was clean. It was a clean car. But nowadays,
if you could only still have it.
Yeah, that was the one that I wish I still had. Yeah. So I'm slowly replacing all my cars in my life with ones that I wish I had. So, but I like that car, but not enough to replace it. I got other ones on the list that I'll buy before that.
Okay, I gotta ask you real quick. What's the one that got away? As weird as it is, I don't count, because I got a weird one for you that I think about all the time.
So the only one that I wish, and I'll probably build, I tried to get CarCraft to build it, but they didn't bite on it this year, is I had an 85 Chevy S10 Blazer.
Okay, yeah.
That was 2-wheel drive, and it was slammed down on the ground, and it had like 8 15-inch subs in the back. It was all walled off. And what's really cool is, so you walk through SEMA this year, and it's crazy. The audio is back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like there were
shakers.
Oh, there were so many like mini trucks, like that new Ford Maverick. I saw so many Ford Mavericks like sitting on the ground with a whole bunch of subs in the back, and it's now a thing now, and it's cool to see the audio. And I was talking to a couple shops close to me, and they said like their audio department is blowing up. Everyone's like building.
That's good. That's how I learned how to do fiberglass. I would have never learned how to do fiberglass until I got into the custom weird audio stuff where, well, you want it to have it flow here and a thing up here. It's like, all right. Yeah,
well, it's back now, and there was like crazy 80s wheels on stuff, and so it's kind of funny. The mini trucking scene is back. I think it's going to come back pretty hard, which is kind of cool, because the other thing is those guys, like the guy that built the truck, Jeremy Bumpus, who's a friend of mine, he built this Ford Maverick, and it's nasty. He did a cab cut in it, so he cut the back out, put the camper shell in the back. It's got like 8 15s in the back. It's insane. But
4 batteries and 2 alternators.
Yeah, he wanted the classic. He grew up building mini trucks, and now he's a grown man, and he's like, I want to get back to it. And it's the same way. So for me, that's probably the one that got away. Would be that I'd like to do another square body S10. I'd want to do like a legit Pro Street version of it though, because mine was V8 swap, but it wasn't crazy. I'd like to go like stupid crazy with it.
Yeah, you want to see a wheelie with the subs in the back?
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of fun. Yeah, I think that's the only one that got away. Every other one, I've got, I'm up to like 16 or 18 cars. Well, it depends. If you count ones that don't run, I've got like 22.
Which ones run?
I got 22. I got like 16 running vehicles right now at the shop and the house and in various places hidden around the United States. Which is good.
One for me, it was such a weird car, and I didn't even think I'd like it. I bought it for $800 at an auction, but it was a '74 Cordoba. SS. So they only made an SS for one model year. Came with like the Corinthian leather.
Oh, yeah.
Bucket sole. So it was like almost like a Monte Carlo interior. And I've never ever came with a 400 small block in it. Like, I mean, this is such and I remember I had it. This thing ripped. It was so comfy. Such a sweet ride. It was black with black leather interior.
Nice.
Had little flower pinstripes down the side, like just like total cholo. Like, it was like built for me. It was like my jam. And I went to the U.S. for like this big, like basically a concert, and I ended up getting stuck in the U.S. for like a month partying, and my car got towed like 2 days after I left, and I didn't know till I got back to Canada. It was towed for like 3 weeks, and I was only like 18 or 19 at the time, and when I got back, it was like a $20,000 impound fee.
Oh.
Car gone. Like, I can't. They kept it.
You're like, that was like the real life Joe Dirt story.
Oh man,
lost,
I was
lost your Hemi Charger.
Yeah, I lost my Cordova. And people were like, a Cordova. I was like, Google 74 Cordova. Like, that car was sick, and it was like just like this. Like, I sat like with the seat all the way down and back. Like, you'd see like with the top of my head.
Yes.
It was like just 100%. And I dream about that car. I've never seen another one.
Yep.
Aside from the internet.
I'm sure you could find another one. You just gotta look for it.
They had the round lights in the front, and if you ever Google Cordovas and you see ones with squares, that's not the one.
That's not the one.
That's
You need
not
the round
one.
lights.
It's got to have the split, so there's 4 lights, 2 on each side. It was just a one model year. So if you come across one,
I'll let you know. If I find one, I'll send you a message on Instagram.
yeah, and I don't even care if
Max,
it's got the buckets. I can rip those out.
you can put that back in.
Yeah, I can figure something else
I
out.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll keep my eyes peeled. Keep my eyes peeled for you.
All right, so Canadian mechanic, school teacher, jumps on a show, gets to the U.S., starts doing stuff. Sounds like you did a show in Nashville, which is like where you live. Like,
Yep.
you're like now
Just outside Nashville,
Yeah,
yeah.
they swallowed you up. They didn't let you leave.
Yep.
And you decided to stay there to build your life. Why?
So number one, it's funny. When I was 16 years old and I had my Volkswagen Bug, all I wanted to do was move to California and build Volkswagen Bugs. That's all I wanted to do. If I had known then what I know now, I would have done it. I would have just packed my bags and moved to California because, it's honestly just what I should have done. I didn't because it was, quote, illegal. And that's, Canadians, that's the reason there's not a bunch of Canadians jumping across the borders. We're too polite. We're like, oh, that's against the law. But if I'd known then what I knew now, I would have packed my bags at the age of 18 and moved to California. Yeah. I would have made up a social security number and just went to work.
Yeah.
The irony was we came to the States to do the show. When we started our own production company, we talked about where to go because we could go anywhere. And we looked at a bunch of spots, and I love the Southwest. So we looked in Arizona, we looked in Utah, looked at a bunch of stuff. My wife likes the Pacific Northwest. We looked up there, and my son was a junior in high school at the time. And so we said, you know what, we can't move him. He's a junior in high school. It'd be too much to move him around the country. So we decided to stay in Nashville, and Nashville's a good spot. Like it's a great city. It's a good state. It's a good state for business. It's a tax-free state, which is also nice. So it's a good place to live. It's a good place to run a business out of. During COVID, we blew up. When everyone had to move, could work from home, so many people moved to Tennessee because if you move to Tennessee, you don't pay income tax anymore. So everyone moved to Tennessee. So our property value went through the roof, which was great for us. And then the irony is my son ends up going to school in Tucson, Arizona.
And see ya.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm going to go to, and which is good. I told him, I said, pick someplace. I said, the one thing that people don't understand, and I tell people all the time about living in the States is if you move to the States, I don't think there is, and I've traveled a lot, been to a lot of countries, been all over the globe, I've lived in Canada and lived in the United States, spent time in Europe, there's not another country that is geographically diverse as the United States. So, I mean, Canada's Canada. It's a beautiful country.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah, it's big. Contrary to popular belief, it's the second largest country. People, America's not that big.
No,
compared to
it
Canada.
isn't, no.
People in Texas were like, Texas is huge. I'm like, you try driving across Ontario, my friend.
Yeah.
Texas ain't that big. You get it's like 3 Texases in Ontario.
Yeah.
So, but you've got the East Coast, which looks like Maine. You've got the West Coast, which looks like Seattle. And then in between, you have Toronto, which is like Little America. And then you got a bunch of just stuff.
Hey, I live in stuff.
That's right. You got Montana. From one side to the other. And so, but when you come to the States, I mean, you've got, like, if you want to live in the Pacific Northwest, if you like big trees and fishing, you go there. If you want to live in the legit desert, you can move to Arizona. If you want to live in basically basically, swamps with gators and meth heads, move to Florida. I don't know why you would, but you could.
Yeah.
And then you've got everything in between. So when my son was picking colleges, I said, dude, pick someplace where you're going to go on an adventure. Because don't just go to school in Tennessee. You can go to school in Tennessee if you want, but you've lived here your whole life. Pick somewhere else. And
Well, the U.S. isn't that big, so it's easy to move around. Like, you can drive from one side to the other in 3 days. Like, big deal.
Yeah,
Like,
no, and I literally, it's funny because we just did some stuff with eBay Motors for SEMA this year, and they're like, oh, can you get me, your Jeep? We want to have it in Moab. Can we pick it up on such and such a date from the shop? And I was like, no, because it won't be ready on that date. And I said, when do you need it in Moab? And they gave me the date. I'm like, dude, I'll just drive it to Moab. I'll meet you there. And they're like, oh, you'll drive it to Moab? I'm like, dude, that's a day and a half. Day and a half, I'll be. That's nothing. That's like nothing at all. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm from Canada.
Yeah,
we drive 4 days to get nowhere.
Exactly. Yes. So that was. So yeah. So anyway, but no, we love the States. We love Canada, but I mean, we love living in the States. It's great. We've done our citizenship now, so we're both dual citizens, all of us, both me, my wife, and my son. And so it's definitely, for my son, it's home. It's all he's ever known.
Yeah.
He moved here when he was 3, and then for us, we've been here long enough now that it's basically home now.
Yeah. And how often do you get back to Canada? Like, do you care about coming back and spending that time and letting your son know, this is where dad's from and mom's from?
No, it's too cold up there, dude. No.
Yeah, well, summers are beautiful.
I'll go back. So we went back. We'll go back in the summer only. That's it. My wife this year, she's like, we should go back for Christmas. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So, because we have friends who have cottages, because we're from cottage country. We're from, Smiths Falls is basically cottage country. So we have a good friend who's got a cottage up there, and we'll go up and stay with them because that's fun, get on the boat and all that kind of stuff. So we'll go back. COVID kind of kicked that in the ass for us. We didn't go back for we haven't been back probably in 3-4 years because of that, because it was just too hard.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because a friend of ours just went back, and some things in America are still kind of like ancient old school stuff.
Yeah, there's some archaic stuff.
And so all of our vaccination stuff down here is on a piece of paper. And so he flies into Canada and he walks up to the gate and they're like, could we see your vaccination passport on your phone? And he's like, no, I don't have that. I've got this piece of paper from the
looks like
health
someone
unit.
wrote it from CVS.
You could make it yourself. Yeah. So they're like, oh, I guess we'll just sign you in. Here you go, type of thing. So yeah, it was kind of a pain to get back and forth. So we haven't been back. The irony is all of our family, they all come to visit us because it's fun to come to the States.
And it's nice and warm.
Exactly.
Like when you're talking about diversity in the U.S., I would say that's probably the biggest plus over Canada's diversity of weather.
Yes.
Right? Because I think that Canada's probably has, you could pick any spot in the U.S. and find something similar in Canada, but it's when.
Yes.
Right? Because Saskatchewan's got huge deserts that get super hot, but you only have access to them for 6 weeks a year.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time because we used to make that joke to be like, "How long is winter?" And I tell people, I said, "Well, I owned a motorcycle growing up. I had a street bike, and I said you used to get it out of the garage on May 2-4 weekend, which was the long weekend, right?
That's when my trailer and boat come out. Yeah,
and then if you made it to Canadian Thanksgiving, you were pretty ballsy.
That's a long ways. My
usually,
Mustang was in by then.
Yeah, but it was usually put away, September. And so they're like, so wait, you get June, July, August? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. You'd get 3.5 months of motorcycle riding weather, and then you have to put that thing away.
Yeah, and the first month of that, you're cold.
Oh, and the last month you're cold. Yes. Yes. Well, my parents didn't have air conditioning in their house because it only got hot for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't have air conditioning in my house. People come to my house all the time. I'm like, it's really hot in here. I'm like, dude, soak it up. This is all you get.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it. It's plus 40 today. Just take it.
Go to the basement if you're cold. If you're hot, go to the basement. That's what you do in Canada. Like, man, I'm hot. Go to the basement.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool off in the basement, then get out.
Yeah.
So we have family. We had my wife's grandmother lived on the island in BC, which is beautiful. Which we'll go out there and visit them. And that's kind of a fun trip to go visit them because we'd fly to Seattle and then we'd
that's a nice little rip up there.
We take either the float plane or the clipper across, which is kind of fun under Victoria. So yeah, we'll go up occasionally, but we haven't been back in 4 or 5 years at this point.
Yeah. And now, okay, so actually we should take our break now. It's a good time for a commercial. So
lunch break.
Yeah, we'll take a quick break here at the CWB Association podcast. We're in Fabtech Atlanta. I'm here with Ian from Big Tire Garage, and we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
The CWB Association is new and improved and focused on you. We offer a free membership with lots of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. We are committed to educating, informing, and connecting our workforce. Gain access to your free digital publication of the Weld magazine, free online training, conferences, and lots of giveaways. Reach out to your local CWB Association chapter today to connect with other welding professionals and share welding as a trade in your community. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Join today and learn more at CWBAssociation.org.
And we are back here on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and we're having lots of fun here at Fabtech Atlanta. I got Ian here. We got, we've been running through the gamut
The
of
whole
questions.
list of all things.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, we're talking about it. I mean, I haven't made you cry yet. And we're not having an Oprah moment, so not yet.
You get a welder.
Yeah.
You get a welder. Everyone check under your seat. Everyone gets a welder.
We literally cracked that joke last night about a certain welding company that gives a lot of welders out to people all over the place. I will leave them unnamed, but you know who they are.
Did you see the Everlast multi-process support group video?
No. Is it good?
It is so funny. You must
Have
watch
you seen
it.
it? No.
You'll have to watch it after. If you have not, you need to go to the Everlast Welders Instagram page and look up the multi-process support group video they put out. It was possibly one of the funniest things I've seen on the internet in a long time. I'll give them props for that. It's perfect. It's so perfect.
It captures all the vibes.
It does. It's hilarious. If you haven't watched it, everyone needs to go right now. Go to their Instagram page and watch it. I mean, it's got already probably like 2 million views on it. But
Awesome.
it captured everyone's welder perfect. It was great.
All right, so let's continue the journey here. You know, you're down in the States, you're working away, you got your shows now. Now you've committed to living in Nashville, or just outside of Nashville, sorry, and now you've become nationalized. You are now an American citizen.
Yep.
Right. Does that open up any other pathways for you career-wise, or were you fine down there working as a Canadian all this time?
Yeah, we got our green card years ago. So
Yeah.
when we did the standard move, when we moved, we had to get a work visa, and then we could transition that work visa into a different type of work visa, and then that became a green card, and then that eventually becomes citizenship. And it's just a decision. We could have stayed here forever on a green card. There's been nothing wrong with it. We did it mainly just because, mainly we did it for our son because he's finishing college and we're
Travel.
like, and we just said, all right, well, you're finishing college, you might as well just do it. Let's do it now. And then when you're done, and he already has a job when he graduates school. He's done school, so he's got a job offer. And it just works. It actually works well for him having dual citizenship because now he can pretty much work anywhere on the planet because the Canadian citizenship gets you a lot of places.
It does.
Because you basically have access to every country that used to be owned by Great Britain.
The Commonwealth,
Yeah, which is why the Queen always looks sad at the Olympics because she has to watch all these countries she used to own walk by.
Well,
She used to look sad.
She gone.
That's a sad thing to say. I'm sorry, but
No, I'm okay with
now
it.
it'll be Prince Charles looking sad. So anyway, but yeah, so we did it mainly because we wanted to lock it down before he graduated college. So that was the main thing for us. But then just for us, like I said, it's home now, and so we thought we might as well just go ahead and do it. And then we have the ultimate ability that if we want to go back and live in Canada for a little while, we can. We can come back and live in the States. The green card, you're allowed. You can travel all you want, but you can't. If you move out, you got to give it up.
Yeah.
And so we worked hard to get that green card and spent a lot of money getting it. So it'd be kind of silly to go all that way and then just walk away
and then
from
lose it.
Yeah, it just seems silly.
Now, in terms of what you got going on in your professional life, you talked about these shows, you've been on tour already 2 weeks. You got another week coming up of being on the road. We've been on the road like a couple weeks now too, and this is the time of year, right? This is that time of year when it's the madness time, and in terms of what you got going on in your shop, back home, how does that run? Is that a 40-hour-a-week shop for people? Is there people working there right now while you're here, or is it only does the work follow you specifically?
No, I'm the only person that works in my shop. I'll have people come in and help out occasionally, like friends and stuff. And I have a guy that we hire who does a lot of my wiring and stuff. I like wiring, but he's so much better at it than I am.
Yeah, and it's tedious
And
too.
so, but basically everything in my shop is either something that I own or something I'm building for somebody that we've
Commission.
Well, when I got a 7-1. The way I work is I never used to build vehicles for people, but I was just running out of space, so I had too many cars. And and with the TV shows, we have to keep building cars, and I don't want to build cars just for anybody. And so we basically boiled down to the fact that I said, all right, well, what I'll do is I'll build a car a year for somebody. But the way it works for them is they just come to me and I got a 715 in there right now. He brought it in and I just said, okay, here's the deal. You just give me this car and then
See you in a year.
You give me a check of X dollars and then you'll get this car back in a year. And if you don't like it, you can sell it. If you like it, you can keep it. I don't care, but it's X number of dollars. and then I'll build you the truck. But you don't get to do things like pick the color. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm not running a shop. I'm making television shows. So for us, that's basically what we do. The shop itself, years ago, we talked about doing more on the shop side, basically opening a shop.
Yeah.
The reality is for us, it's better just to leave our shop as
available.
A TV studio is what it is. Even though we call it the shop, it's basically 3 different TV studios inside a building, and it just works better for us that way. And then, it's still also kind of a fun, it's not really a job really. A buddy of mine a few years ago back home from Canada called me up because I'm over 50 now, and we're talking. He's like, what are you going to do when you retire? Then I said, well, what would retirement look like to you? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, man, I'd like to have like a shop, a couple projects in it, work on it every now and again. And I was like, well, if that's the case, I've been retired for like 10 years. So one day I may have to get like a real job.
Yeah, I want to go work at McDonald's when I retire.
I want to work at Home Depot.
Actually,
Home Depot or Lowe's. I just want to be that guy in the aisle. I just want to walk in. What are you building today?
Yeah.
Oh, I got the screw for you. Look at these flamboyant little nails.
That's so funny you say that. So I got 2 little retirement stories. One is that's my dream. I think that I would love to retire to a part-time like Home Depot, Lowe's job because I've been in trades my whole life. I know all the tools. I know all the I've done so many weird things that I've been like, oh, I need to find that blah, blah, blah to make this thing do this, that I would love to be that old guy being like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I got you, man.
Yep.
Here's this and this. And I'd probably be like, and this is what you do.
Yep.
All right. So blah, blah, blah.
Perfect.
Now, on the other side of that, in one of my rental properties, I got this cute little Filipino couple. They're like in their 80s, right? They're like, I love them. They're the best renters ever. So they invited us to like their 70th wedding anniversary or something. Like they're just really nice people. And I was talking to the lady. She's like probably like 78 or 79. And I was like, so how's retirement in Canada? Because they moved here for their kids. And she's like, oh, I still work full time. I was like, you work full time? She's like, yeah, I was the CEO of like this major like investment company for like 40 years in the Philippines and then here in Canada. And I worked so hard, then I retired. And I was like, bored, right? And I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, what do you do? She's like, I work at McDonald's. I was like, really?
Nice.
She's like, yeah, like it's the one right across the street. See that right there? I wake up, I go over there. I'm up at 5 a.m. anyways. They need someone to come in at 6. So I'm there. I go, I work for 4 hours a day. I work 4 hours a day. I get in the morning. I do all the prep for breakfast. I do some cleaning and I'm home by noon. And, that's my day. And I was like, that sounds really nice.
That's actually a pretty sweet gig. Right
yeah,
there.
that sounds pretty cool, man. Like I think that retirement for most people, I've seen it happen, is a struggle. People worry, like they get down. A lot of people, not so much our generations, because we just don't care, but a lot of places, their work is their life identity.
Yeah.
Right? Like what they do is their life. So when they stop working, it's like they're lost into the ether of madness. They don't know what to do. Whereas I think our generation's more like, we just do stuff kind of whenever.
Yep.
So retirement's going to just be more
exactly
of that.
Yep. I'll just do different work.
Yeah, I'll just do. And if I sleep in, I can sleep in more.
Yep.
Right?
I laughed when my parents first retired. They got an RV and they did a bunch of traveling, and then they started just going to like Florida. Right? They just go to Florida in their RV every year. And I was like, I don't understand it. Why just go, like you have
just buy a place there?
Just buy a house, man. You don't need to live in a trailer. Yeah. And then we went down and visited them once, and it was like summer camp for old people. Like,
yeah,
they had euchre night and they had all, and I was like, I get it now. It's not the RV. It's literally summer camp for old people is what it was. And that's why they did it. And so I think there's a lot of people that they need something to do when they retire, or it's just no fun.
Yeah, I'm weird. I could like literally just play video games.
Yeah. I don't think I couldn't not work. It would just feel, when I don't work, it feels weird. It's just not right.
No, I have anxiety problems, and when I have anxiety attacks, when I have panic attacks, is when I'm not working.
I could see that.
I run at a high speed. I run at I'm on a nitrous 24/7. So when you shut the nitrous off, I flood.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, I flood. So it's like I got a day off, and I wake up in the morning being like all excited. I got the day off. Within an hour, I'm like pulling my hair out and being like, what do I do? Like.
Yeah, that doesn't, in our house, if I have a day off, it's like, they'll be like, well, let's put a new kitchen in. and that's bad. That my problem is like, I'll be like, and my wife knows this. Like if she said to me, okay, you have a choice. You can like vacuum the living room or
Rip out the kitchen.
rip out all the carpet and put hardwood down. I'd be like, all right, hardwood coming in. 'Cause I
here
would
it comes.
much rather do that.
I get to go rent a sander.
Yeah, I would much rather do that than vacuum. Vacuum's stupid. I'm not
Yeah,
a
vacuum is my lowest on the totem pole of chores.
Yeah.
The lowest. I would rather eat other people's kitty litter than
I could see
vacuum.
That's why I have so many cars, because what happens is I'll have a car, I'll have a truck that will get done building.
And then it gets dirty.
Well, no, it'd be like, oh, it needs some maintenance. And then I'll be like, well, yeah, we'll do that maintenance. Well, maybe while we're at it, we'll change it. I never liked this front axle. Maybe put a different front axle in it. Maybe put a different transfer case in it. Maybe put a different transmission in it. And then I'm like, wait a minute. At that point, I'll just build another car. And so
Yeah.
then I just build another car. Because it's just like, I'm going to make all those changes. And there's guys that are fine with that. The guys be like, well, I built this buggy and I never really like this. I'm going to put different axles in it next year. And I'm like, if you're going to put different axles in, just build another car, dude. And then you have two cars.
Yeah.
It's perfect that way. And he's like, no, it's just stupid. And I'm like, no, your way, my way is so much better.
You're stupid.
You have more cars this way. This is the smart decision. You have more vehicles to choose from in the long run. They might all be broken, but you'll have like 10 cars.
Yeah, I actually did a car dump. I got rid of some cars a few weeks ago because I'm going to Chile at the end of the year, and I had actually vandalism in my neighborhood. And a bunch of windows got smashed, and I was like, it's a all this stuff, and got rid of some of them. I put some away on my Mustangs, put away and stuff. But I'm already like, when I get back from Chile, I'm going shopping.
Yeah.
Because I feel really weird. So I don't have a truck right now.
Yeah, my friend cleaned out his collection and he sent it all to Meekum, sent like 4 cars to Meekum and cleaned out, made good money and stuff. And he called me and he's like, dude, that all your off-road stuff. And the guys from Meekum have called me and they're like, want to sell your whole collection. And I'm like, yeah, but then I wouldn't have any cars. So that'd be so weird, you know? It'd be weird not having any cars. And it's funny because he'll come to my shop and, we've got we got the house, I got basically a 3-car garage attached to the house. And then behind the house, we built another 4-car garage, and those are all full. And the shop's 5,000 square feet of it's just storage. And then we have another 5,000 square feet of studio. And he'll just be like, you need to clean out some of these cars. And I'm awful for that. I'm just like, no, I don't want to sell anything. I'll just keep it all. And then one day I'll just sell it all. That's
It'll
my
be
theory.
the inheritance for your kid. There you go. Run
I've
with
already
it.
told my son, I said, you can't sell, you got to keep that one, but the rest of them, you can just sell them all.
Yeah.
Just sell it all off. It's like tools. I never sell tools. I just keep collecting tools.
No,
But
you
to
can't
me,
sell tools.
It's the same with cars. It's just like cars, trucks, tools. I don't sell any of them.
So
I keep them all.
here's how getting rid of my truck kicked me in the ass with tools. I lent a buddy all my tree stuff, my big long ladders, my extenders, my saw, everything for pruning big trees. Lent to a buddy when I had a truck. Then I sold my truck, and I got no way to get anything back.
So now you got to buy a truck. Problem solved.
When I get back from Chile, I'm buying a truck. I told the old lady, she's like, well, you're just going to buy a little one because you don't really drive it that much. I'm like, yeah.
See, ideally a diesel truck, and it's funny because occasionally I'll think about it, like, I should not drive this. This is silly. I'm daily driving a diesel truck. That's a bad idea. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. If I go buy another car, it's not going to save me any money.
You're still
'Cause
doing
I'm
the
gonna
same
have to get-
driving.
I still need the diesel truck, so I got to keep the truck and buy another car, and
Yeah.
then just be having two more vehicles. So it just seems a little bit silly. But no, yeah, I'll just drive my. I don't think I've ever not had a truck. I don't think I could live. I don't know how you're doing it.
It's been a month.
It's
It's been
hard.
1 month. It's been tough.
Yeah.
My wife's like, just use my SUV. It's like, dude.
It's not the same. Not the same. Yeah.
So it's like, maybe I'll just rent a truck from U-Haul for 2 months
You could do
just
that.
so I
You could-
feel better.
Yeah, you could just get yourself a big 1-ton for a couple months. You'd be fine.
No, I'll figure it out. No, I mean, it's this is just privileged people complaining about stupid things.
The problem nowadays is trucks are so expensive.
So I made a mistake, dude. I sold my truck for way too cheap. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like I said, just with this, and I had worked. So I had 460,000 kilometers on a 2001 GMC Sierra. I loved this thing. I had taken very good care of it. I had a 2-inch lift on it. I had the 10,000-pound towing package on it with the air or the electric brakes, the whole thing. It was a very nice truck, and I worked potash lots of my life mining. So underneath was rusted bad. I was out camping this summer. We were driving back, and I was going down this big hill, and I had 2 brake lines just explode on me with a trailer, which was pretty hairy. And then I went to go step on the e-brake, and it just snapped off.
Yes.
Right? So now I'm trying to down the freaking the hill. I got it into some small town. They fixed it up for me, and the guy's like, dude, your whole underside is gone. I was like, I know. And he's like, no, but it's like you're going to kill yourself kind of gone. I was like, damn it. And then I got my windows shot out. So I was mad. I was like, that's it. I'm selling it. Put it up on Marketplace for $2,000. was like, get out of here. And I don't even want it. It sold like in 6 minutes. It was like,
Yep.
I'll cash. And then the guy was like, literally said to me, he's like, wow, man, this is such a good deal. You could have sold this for like 4 times as much. And I was like, what? Oh, dude. Mulligan.
Yep.
I mean, $8,000. I mean, $8,000.
Yes, that was a typo.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I sold it to him. Kid was happy. He's like 16 years old. He
Yep.
was happy as so whatever.
Yep.
I'm going to put new glass in this thing. Is it good off-roading? I'm like, yeah, man, it's got brand new tires on it. And we're going to rip it up, man. This thing's been everywhere.
Yeah, that would be that's the hardest part when I talk to my friends back. I'm like, it's because we don't have any rust where we are, which is nice. Because we don't like when it snows in Tennessee, they don't do anything about it. They just wait for the sun to melt it. So we don't have salt and stuff on the road. So I buy cars all the time. And when I imported my Ram into the States when we first moved, so I brought my Ram 1500. It was a '96, and it was bad. It was rotten. And I sold it to a guy, and I told him, I was like, listen, once you buy this, if you look underneath it and don't like it, I mean, you just bring it back.
Yeah.
I'll give you your money back. And he bought it, and he's like, and months later, he's like, dude, what's happened to this truck? And I'm like, it's called Canada. It's all the same.
I've had people say that about my
3
truck.
years old, they're going to start to rust. That's just part of it, you know?
But I miss that girl. That truck was so good to me for so long. It was the truck my friends would borrow.
Yeah.
Right? Even my friends with trucks would come get my truck to be like, oh, we got something like real stuck. Can we borrow your truck? So, yeah, get out there.
Yeah.
She'll not let you down.
Yeah, you can't go without a truck. You have to have a truck. But yeah, that the part nowadays they're so expensive.
So what? Like I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna have to drop like $20,000 on like the same truck.
Yeah,
like
an old used truck.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Well, yeah.
And I don't want to spend 100 G's on a truck. I don't feel good about that right now.
I can't do it. I mean, I've got my diesel truck. I bought it years ago. I bought it for $40,000. It's a 16. That truck now is like an $87,000 truck, which blows my mind. I'm like, I can't spend $87,000 on a truck. That just feels weird.
And I just beat them up. It's not like I'm buying luxury trucks. Like I do like my trucks to be nice and like leather heated seats, blah blah blah. Because I'm a baby, but I beat them up. Like I do steel work with them. I'm hauling stuff. I'm loading them up. Like I do illegal things with them that should, if I get pulled over, fines will be issued, right? Like, and I can't do that to a really pretty fancy truck.
Those towing capacities are just guidelines.
Oh, 100%. Like I put a 2-inch lift on it just so I wouldn't rub the tires when I loaded it up.
Smart.
It had nothing to do with climbing over anything. It had to do with bottoming out. Like,
Yeah. All those towing capacities, they're like instructions. You know what instructions are, right?
Yeah.
That's just another man's opinion.
I put a headache rack on it because they're like, so I like buying my steel full size bulk. It's way cheaper, right? But I don't have a delivery point where I live. So they're like, well, we can't sell you the 40 footers unless you have like a proper vehicle to pick them up in, like a semi or something like that. I'm like, well, what's your minimum requirements? It's like, well, we need a front and back headache rack so that we can lay out full 40 lengths. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get back to you. So they get in the shop, whip up like a whole top rack for my truck.
Nice.
I roll into this like Russell steel where all the semis are lined up. There's me and my truck behind the semis. I'm like, load her up. They're like, well, you bought like 14,000 pounds of flat bar. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Just put it on there until the bump stops.
Yeah, just
That's what
throw
they're
it
there
on
for.
top, man.
Yep.
And he's like, you know that if you get pulled over, like, say no more.
Yep.
I'm gonna roll out of here, and you're gonna say nothing.
I know where the back roads are. That's all that matters. I'll stay off the 400 series. It'll be all right.
I mean, it was funny until I got home, and then I was like, now how do I get this off?
That's the hard part. That's the hard part.
Hand bombing it with like a couple of buddies. Like, this sucks, guys. I can't even get the forklift on this thing. Like, so what's going on in the future, dude? What's going on? What's for the rest of this year? What's going on?
This year we'll wrap up. So we finished shooting four-wheeler probably about a month ago. And then we did SEMA, did the SEMA show, and now we're doing Fabtech. We've got LA Auto Show with eBay Motors next week. And then after that, we'll probably just start wrapping down. We'll start filming again for we got one more series we got to finish out this year for Motor Trend with Cummins. We're doing a Jeep and a pickup truck for them. So we got to film that for the rest of the year. That's for a series for Motor Trend called 4x4 Garage. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just ramp up for next year. So we got all our contracts locked in for next year for our season of four-wheeler. And then we start that in I think it's March. So we'll start pulling in projects and parts and just keep going from there.
Cool. You gonna get a little bit of time off?
Sort of. I'll probably take a couple weeks off in December. That's about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, the good thing for me is I don't have a real job. It's just a fun job. So it's not like my wife jokes. She calls the shop the cottage. Because she'll come down, she brings a dog down, and we'll hang out down there, and she'll watch TV while I'm in the back just building stuff. It's good and it's bad because when we built the building, when they were laying it out, I said, we were talking about it. I said, well, maybe we should put a shower in the bathroom. You know, we should think about that. Put a just for like doing those dirty jobs, get a shower in here.
Yeah, you don't have to track it in the house.
Yeah,
or whatever,
and then and we didn't just because the layout didn't work with us because I wanted to have my bourbon bar at the other. That's the other reason why the business.
I've heard of this bourbon bar.
Yeah, that's the other reason why the business isn't a real business. Because when my wife pointed out when the business was starting to take off, and we talked about maybe we should bring on some full-time people and this and that and everything, and she said, if you do that, it can't be a fort anymore. Like the bourbon bar's got to go away. You got to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to keep this place as
I'll build another shop.
Yeah, I was like, it's just going to be a fort then. So that's what it is, just a play fort, right? So anyway. So we'll so we'll just so we didn't put the shower in, and we say all the time that we're lucky that we didn't, because if we didn't, I would just live there 24/7.
Yeah.
Because that's people ask me all the time. They're like, "Oh man, how often do you get to go four-wheeling?" And I'm like, "Well, about 4 or 5 times a year. We go on a couple big trips. When my son was younger, we would go like at least once a month, like local and stuff. But for me nowadays, it's more just about like big new places I could go. I don't need to go wheeling every weekend or off-roading every weekend. But for me, and the reason why is because for me, my favorite spot is in the shop. Like if I could work in the shop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I would. And sometimes I do, which is kind of bad. So I got that problem where if I get in there and start working on something and it's going well and I'm like, oh, it's going to look so cool if I do this.
You
and
don't
this
want to
and
break that mojo, right?
No, I'll just keep going. And then my wife will call me. It'll be like 9 o'clock at night. She'll be like, do you plan on coming home tonight? And I'll be like, oh, what time is it? She's like, it's like 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, oh, I did, because the shop is built like a TV studio, which is built like a casino. So there's no windows.
Yeah.
So you don't know what time it is unless you look at your watch. And we get in there working. It's just like, oh, I'll just be working. And next thing you know, it's like we've been at it for 12 hours. So it can be dangerous. But so, yeah.
And there's bourbon.
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing I have going for me is I've always had a rule, and this was a rule ever since I was a kid, and it kind of bit me in the ass when I was younger. I always say, I won't drink until I'm done the job. So we used to have friends come over, like I had a little garage in my house, and we'd work on cars together, and my friends would come over like, oh, will you help me do this to my car? I'll bring a case of beer. And I'd be like, sure. And then I could never drink and work. That was something I could never do. And so I'd be working on the car, and then we'd finish the car. Well, they would have been sitting around drinking all day, watching me work on the car, and then we get it done. I'd be like, all right, I'll have a beer. And I'd be like, oh, beer's all gone, man. Oh,
But you're the sober one. You can go pick more
yeah,
up.
go pick up more beer, will you? Because we're hammered. We're like legit hammered right now. So yeah, that was the bourbon is always at the end of the day, which is always sort of the way we do things in my life.
Well, I got to get down there and visit you. I told you that last year.
Anytime.
So, I got to get down there. But work is good. No, what do you? I'll go down there alone.
You could do a remote, you could come and do like some remote podcasting.
Well, we do. That's what we're doing right now. If we can set it up, maybe we find a couple, colleges or something in the area, do a little tour or something.
We could tour some whiskey distilleries. That's almost the same as a college.
Also a thing. Maybe we could start a new podcast.
You could. So the cool thing is, and this is one thing you probably know this, and most people, if you're listening to this in the States, don't know this, is that so the company that put my building up, Miracle Trust Buildings, they're out of St. Louis area, but all of their welders are CWB, not AWS.
100%.
Because if you're CWB, you're nationwide.
Yeah.
And
you're
so,
actually almost completely international.
Yeah. And so they take all their welders who go to that facility to learn, and they're actually from Saskatchewan. It's hilarious because I walked into their facility to see them, and the guy who owns the company, Miracle Trust is one company, and then there's another company that builds the buildings for them.
Yeah, the contractor.
Yeah, and so I walk in there, and it's like the whole place is full of Montreal Canadian merchant, like just everywhere. And everyone in the family is named a version of Guy. Because there's such Guy Lafleur fans. There's like Guy Leon, Guy Leon. It's like all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, you are such a. Anyway, so he moved from Canada into the St. Louis area years ago to open this company. And we talked about that. And he goes, no, everyone who comes here for welding, we immediately send them up to Canada to get them CWB certified because then we can sell our buildings anywhere in the States.
Yeah.
If not, we can't deal with like state by state regulations.
It's jurisdiction based, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the biggest thing. So that if you're a welder in the States, it's probably good to get some CWB.
So we have an official testing center now in Houston and training center.
There you go.
We are expanding into the U.S. right now because our CWB codes and standards exceed all American codes and standards. Well, I shouldn't say that blanketly.
Yes.
AWS is going to be like, hey, what are you saying? No, we do have a better mobility range.
But that, and that's the funny thing is people always ask me what's the biggest difference between living in Canada and the United States. And the biggest difference between living in Canada and the United States is that Canada is one country.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest thing that people don't understand. Like if you make a law in Ontario, it's a law nationwide. That's just how it works. It's going to go nationwide in a day. And living in the United States is like 50 little countries. And that's awesome in a way, because like for me, I live in a state where there's no income tax. There's no vehicle inspections, so all my vehicles are street legal. Even though if I brought them to Canada, I would make it like out of the driveway and I'd be pulled over immediately. Yes. So for us, it's like, and that's the cool thing about the States is if you don't like the rules in your state, just go find another state to live in. That's what's kind of fun. And that's probably but when it comes to like certifications, it becomes an issue because if you're certified in Tennessee, that doesn't mean you're going to be certified. And that goes for all trades. It's so
trades,
patchworked across the United
Unless
States.
you're in a union can bypass state jurisdictions in the U.S.
Yeah.
But those unions use mainly Canadian standards.
I believe it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it is. So, well, awesome. I think it's time to wrap up. Danielle's been giving me the time signal for about 10 minutes already. So
Too long.
Yeah, that's all good. But Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, it's been great to be here. We'll be back. We'll be in Chicago next year where we can have some Malort.
100%. So much Malort. And did you find us a karaoke bar for tonight?
I did not. I'm probably going to be going home tonight.
Oh,
I was such a bum.
man.
I was like, where can I find a karaoke bar in Atlanta? But yeah, we'll find one in Chicago again. Don't worry.
All right, 100%. And do you want to do a shout out for any of the stuff? Anybody, anything, any website, whatever?
Probably the easiest way to find me is always on social media. It's always the same. It's Ian from Big Tire Garage. You can watch all of our shows on the Motor Trend app or the Motor Trend YouTube channel, and that's pretty much where all of our stuff lives.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it again, and we'll keep in touch, bro.
Absolutely.
All right, and thank you to everyone that's been following and downloading and supporting us. We're having a great time here at Fabtech. It's been a long week. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun, and it's big again. It's big again. We're back up to the big size with Fabtech, so it's good to see all the suppliers and companies out here. So stay tuned. These will all be rolling out, and later today, after a few more podcasts, we're going to be doing our 100th episode. So stay tuned for that because we got lots of big prize giveaways for that to follow up. So thank you, and stay tuned.
We hope you enjoyed the show.